Alrighty, so now that I've done the review of El Trafico, that means I have one less game to review this week, but I'll still stick to the formula where part number one, I'll look at the first 8 games that happen in the match week, and then in part two, instead of looking at 6 games, I'll look at the last 5 games to finish off match week number 8 in terms of the busy Saturday action. And in terms of the storyline for this match week number 8, well, if you like late goals, this was definitely a week for you because we saw a lot of late goals that was scored. So much so that in these earlier games, it felt like every single game featured a late goal. In fact, the first game that we're going to talk about did feature a late goal between Charlotte versus Colorado, and Charlotte will definitely be kicking themselves in this game because they looked like they had this game won, and then just a bad mistake by their young goalkeeper, and it cost them all 3 points in their first win at home. Now, early on, there was a nasty collision between Capetti and Abubakar. Now, fortunately, Capetti was able to stay into this game, but when I saw that collision, it really reminds me of the Abubakar and Ibobasi collision a couple of years ago when I was actually in the stadium for that, and yeah, it was a nasty collision to a point where Ibobasi, of course, had to be out for a couple weeks because of concussion, and I thought this could be the same case with Enzo Capetti. But fortunately, he was able to continue, and the same goes for Abubakar. But in the 7th minute, Rubio would miss high from long range before Shvedetsky missed high from long range too. Jozwiak also tests his luck from long range, but he missed wide there. As I thought Charlotte definitely start the first half on the front foot, and they were looking for the opening goal. Though Abubakar did play a dangerous ball that actually hits a couple of players and almost trickled it in. So he was basically putting this one into the traffic, and that traffic almost helped him in a way where the ball was pinballing in the box and almost trickled in, but Marks was able to just save that one off the line. But despite the chances that we had from both teams, we had to halftime scoreless. We wouldn't hit to the second half scoreless for long because in the 54th minute, this is when the goal scoring really began. It all started with Max scoring here from Nicholson and Rubio. I believe that's Max's first career MLS goal because I don't remember Max actually score a goal during his debut season for the Rapids last year. But the lead did not last long because just 8 minutes later, Praveen Vargas would ties the game up for Charlotte FC, and then 3 minutes later, they would take the lead. It's Josviak scoring for Shvedetsky and Vargas to make it 2-1 in favor of Charlotte. So Kamil Josviak, all of a sudden, he started to score goals, which is something that was a huge problem for him last season. And it's safe to say that he is definitely kind of started to become the deep key kind of attack that he currently has. I mean, obviously, I still think that Josviak, if he can really turn it around this season, have an incredible breakout year, I still think that DP tag that he hang on is one of the worst DP we've seen in the league. But at least this year, Kamil Josviak has done a good job in terms of proving that, yeah, he's at least a decent player. But yeah, that most importantly gives Charlotte the lead, and really this game kind of completely took a 180. I mean, a minute ago it looked like Colorado was going to go on the road and get another 3 points, but all of a sudden Charlotte 2 quick goals and they have the lead. Though Marks did deny Nicholson, as Charlotte almost got caught out after scoring a goal. So you talk about goal scoring feed, like in a span of 13 minutes, we would have saw 4 goals that was scored in this one. Acosta then hits one right to Marks there in the 80th minute, and I think Colorado was pushing for the equalizer. Like they started to control the game again, and it feels like Charlotte was deciding to just kind of shut up shop and trying to hold on to this 2-1 lead, which, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's the best thing to do because we've seen before teams have had problems in terms of seizing out game, and as we'll see in terms of this week, yeah, team that has the lead late in the game, they had a lot of issue in terms of trying to seize out the game. Though in the 82nd minute, Brian Acosta came even closer of scoring as he struck the post from long range. And again, Charlotte, I know they were trying to seize out the game, but they were not doing a good job in terms of it. I mean, defensively, they were all over the place. They were giving the Rapids way too much space to explore on the attack. And whenever the Rapids trying to hit one from long range, it was completely uncontested. I mean, there was no closing down whatsoever. That's kind of the reason for Acosta shots here where nobody was closing down Brian Acosta, and Charlotte almost were made to pay. But Charlotte eventually were made to pay in the first minute of stoppage time because of bad defending, as Barrios would score here to tie the game up at two apiece. Although this is more of just bad goalkeeping in George Mark's case, and I know at the end of the game, many Charlotte fans will say that this one is going to be on George Marks because of a howler that he did, where he simply dropped a catch that he has to make, and then it just go right into the path of Barrios, who hits it into the empty net. But this is going to happen. Like, as a young goalkeeper, I think George Marks has definitely done well coming in to this row, and hopefully this bad moment won't come back to hurt a young goalkeeper confident. Like, this is definitely one that is going to be a learning experience from George Marks, and hopefully not one that will kind of damage his confidence. But still, I will say that at the end of the day, with this game finished 2-2, again, Charlotte trying to seize out game, and the way that they did not do a good job and just being poor defensively, it's kind of the reason why they let points slip out, or let 3 points slip out of their hands in this one. As the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 13 that Colorado has, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Charlotte has, 9 shots off target for the 4 that Colorado has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Rapids has in this game. And while the Rapids isn't winning a lot of games lately, I gotta say that this team you can definitely see this is a team that is start to become a team that you definitely don't want to face, because they have a lot of heart and guts in terms of trying to get a result. And I believe they actually have not lost a single game ever since they lost to Minnesota back in week number 3, if I remember. So they've been on an unbeaten run, and this has been a great job for Robin Fraser and what his team done. Because, like I said, when you look at the first couple of games, it looked like they were heading into a train wreck, but they have definitely recovered themselves, albeit now that they just need to turn these draws into win. Though, again, I think in this game they'll be happy with the point, but not so much for Charlotte. Again, they really let this one slip, and that decision to trying to go ultra defensive come back to haunt them in the end, and of course the goalkeeping howler. With that being said, moving on in the next one, we got Columbus versus New England. So this is another game that feature a late goal, and this game feature a late goal that happened literally in the last kick of the game. And I would also like to say that I hope that I could see this matchup in the playoffs, because this was a game where it was very even, and the scoreline I think could have been more if it wasn't for or both of these goalkeeper really up to its game. And that, yeah, in the end, in a game between two really good team in the Eastern Conference, ends in a hard fought 1-1 draw. But at least early on there was not much that was happening. I feel like both of these teams were just trying to feeling each other out, because I know this is a big game for both of these team. And this, again, I also feel like this is kind of like a playoff game, with the way that it feels like both of these teams has so much at stake, even if it's just a regular season game. Shote then denied Veroni from close range before Zarian had Columbus first shot, but he hits it straight to Petrovic. Though Petrovic did have to deny Zarian, who had a rocket of a shot there. But in the 38th minute, Veroni was in on goal, and he was trying to chip it over Shote, but post basically saying no to that. Veroni, this was probably his best game in a New England jersey. And I know he did not score in this one, but he was very active on the attack in this one, and had a lot of chances. That it's been a problem for him ever since he came to this Revs team. But you kind of also had a sense that the goal was coming. Like, with the way that both teams was getting grade A chances, it looked like the opening goal was not far from happening. Though Schulte at least keep this 0-0 after he denied Heel there, but it kind of fell kindly to Dylan Barrero, who just could not quite score on the rebound as he skies that one over the bar. And despite both teams having good chances, we had to halftime scoreless. Now in the second half, Shote would then deny Barrero in the front post. I would gotta say that Shote has done a great job in terms of relieving Eloy Rome, who's still on the IR right now, and that he had to come up big a couple of times with some big save in this one. But I thought the Revs definitely were on the front foot, and they were looking to try to get the opening goal. And they do. In the 58th minute, this was just kind of unfortunate from Dagonet. I mean, he was trying to clear this one away, but I think the ball kind of hit it off of his plant feet as he was trying to clear that one away. And yeah, it basically bounced into his own net, and just one of those unfortunate own goal that was scored there. It won't be the only time we talk about unfortunate own goal because as I'll talk about, I think in one of the other game where they also feature an unfortunate own goal. This won't be the last time I'll talk about it during reviewing these match week 8 games. But in the 62nd minute, Shote did deny Jones in the front post as New England was looking for more. But then in the 65th minute, this is when the game kind of took a turn because Guerrero would get himself sent off after he gets his second yellow card, and this is where Columbus started to smell blood. They're looking to try to push for the equalizer, trying to take advantage of the man up for the last 25 minutes. Petrovic had to deny Matan from close range before Ramirez would puts it high from long range, and with the man advantage, as I said, Columbus they were pressing hard to try to get the equalizer, and you kind of sense New England was trying to hold on and trying to seize this game out. Zarian then took a shot that had a wicked deflection and it just kissed top part of the post. There was a huge shout for a penalty right near the end of regulation and heading into stoppage time, as they feel like one of the New England player actually commit a handball there and should have been a penalty for that. I'm not sure which New England player it was, but there was definitely a huge shout for it, and I think they did kind of go to VAR in terms of, I mean, the referee didn't go to the monitor, but VAR did had a look into it, and they said it's not a penalty. But nevertheless, in the 8th minute of stoppage time, literally at the last kick of the game, Steve Zavitsky would score from Zarian to tie the game up at one apiece. Now, obviously, I know Revs fans are going to be mad at the fact that, yeah, this goal was scored in the 8th minute stoppage time. It was only 5 minute of stoppage, and as a Minnesota fan, I can definitely I definitely can get why they're angry about it because of how there was a couple of minutes play over the 5 minute stoppage time. But I will also say this: when you look at how this was, for the first part of the stoppage time, there was really nothing going on. So in some way, you knew that they weren't going to just play 5 minutes into stoppage time. They're going to go a little bit over. And again, just always people forget that when stoppage time is announced, there's a reason why the PA announcer said there's a minimum of 5 minute stoppage time, not 5 minute of stoppage time, minimum of 5 minute of stoppage time. So there could be definitely more depending on if there's any stoppage happening in stoppage time, and there was definitely the case in this one. Even though I know Rams fans and even Bruce Arena is not happy about that either, but nevertheless, it ends in a 1-1 draw in a hard-fought game, and I think with the way how this game turns out, I think a 1-1 draw and both team getting a point is a fair result. But shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 16 that New England has, 8 shots on goal compared to 7 that Columbus had, 7 shots off target compared to 6 that New England has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Revs has in this game, and I'm definitely looking forward to when both of these teams meet each other again, because again, it was a very highly entertaining game, and that I'm hoping this maybe could be a preview of a playoff matchup in the near future. That being said, moving on in terms of the next match, we got a less impressive match between Montreal versus DC United, and I think this matchup kind of just sums up why they are two of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Because let's be honest, yeah, I mean this was two bad teams facing off against each other, and usually sometimes when I see this happen, in MLS it's kind of unique the fact that even when you have two bad teams facing off against each other, it can be highly entertaining. That was not the case in this one. But early on, the first shot of the game did came in the 6th minute as Bryce Duke puts it high on the free kick. Bryce Duke actually got the start for Montreal in this game. Remember, he was part of the big trade along with Ariel Lassiter to be sent to Montreal and Kamar Miller going the other way to Inter Miami. But he did get the start in this one. I thought he looked good in his debut for Montreal. But there was no doubt that Montreal had a lot of or a lot of possession, but not much chances to speak of in this desperation derby. In fact, the shots were only 1-0 throughout the first 25 minutes. It was a very slow game, as you expect, between two not good team in the Eastern Conference. Though in the 31st minute, the first shot did came for DC as Taxi Funtas tried to chip the goalkeeper, but he missed high there. For Duke would hits one right to Miller, and then Cleek would also hits one just high from close range, and we had to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. It wouldn't say scoreless for long in the second half. In fact, it only took 11 seconds before we saw the first goal of the game in the second half, as Lewis O'Brien gets a dream debut in this one here as he scored his first career MLS goal to make it 1-0 in favor of DC. I mean, Montreal just completely switched off. They clearly was not ready coming out of the locker room for the second half. Though Charnay did try to respond for Montreal, but he hits one right to Miller. Montreal again controlled the possession, but again, the problem room for them is that they can't really create much chances due to poor final third play. Duke then hits one into the side netting in the 82nd minute before Saras had to deny Funtas, who tried to put this game away, and then Funtas had another chance in the 87th minute, but he heads it wide from close range. I thought it was a good game for Taxi Funtas, but again, just unable to show that clinical go finishing. Almost like he's kind of getting the problem that Christian Benteke and Mateus Click tends to have for this DC team. But nevertheless, DC, they'll be happy of them getting their first win since the opening weekend of MLS action with a 1-0 win. And the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 7 that DC had. Both teams had 2 shots on goal, 5 shots off target compared to 4 that DC had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that DC had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 42, or not 42, but 40% possession that DC has in this game. And, you know, while it was an ugly game, I mean, I think DC and Wayne Rooney team will be happy to walk away with a road game that you would expect that if they have any chance in terms of getting road victories, this is definitely a game to do so, and they did exactly that. But for Montreal, losing streak can continue. Well, actually, I wouldn't say the losing streak. I mean, they did win their first game just a couple of games back, but yeah, it's just been a disastrous season for this Montreal side, and it just kind of feels like it now with the way that after they sold off their best defender, it looked like this team is heading toward a rebuild, and they're just going to suck pretty much throughout the season. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is NYCFC and Nashville. So, you know, for Nashville, I don't think they play bad in this game. I thought they actually played relatively well, especially on the attacking end. The problem is they found themselves in a 2-0 hole. And when you find yourself in a 2-0 hole early in the game, especially playing against NYCFC on the road, yeah, it's definitely hard to come back. But first of all, just want to mention the fact that this game is played at Citi Field because Yankee Stadium is I believe the Yankees have a series at home, so NYCFC can't use that stadium. I mean, it's gotta feel good for NYCFC fans that, you know, just 4 more years of this problem and they don't have to deal with this anymore. But one of the things I also have to say is that the camera angle was very high up. Like it was very kind of in a weird way, and you know, I've seen before where when the game is at City Field where NYCFC played the game, that didn't look like the camera angle that they had. So that was kind of weird to see that camera angle that was really high up. But nevertheless, in the 10th minute, NYCFC takes the opening knee. It's Keaton Parks scoring from Illich to make it 1-0 in favor of NYCFC. Though Mukhtar did try to get a quick response for Nashville, but he is denied by Bereza from long range. Then Bereza would deny Pico from long range in the 16th minute. And it's safe to say that, you know, Nashville has responded well. I mean, they were pressing to try to get the equalizer, but instead, they found themselves 2-0 down in the 25th minute as Maxime Chenault would score from Ledesma to make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC. Richie Ledesma, of course, making his debut, and definitely a dream debut in this one, because even though he didn't get on the score sheet, he at least got an assist, and he looked really lively in this one. But really, when you look at this play, yeah, that came off of a corner. This has been a kryptonite for Nashville, really, for the past couple of years, and it strikes again, just poor defending in the box, letting Chenault, who he actually didn't hit this one on a header. He actually hits this one first time on a volley, and for a defender like that to hit a first time on the volley, I mean that's impressive there from Maxime Chenault. But also just poor defending from Nashville, not getting too close, not getting tighter in terms of their marking, and they pay the price because of it. So yeah, they were down 2-0. Seago did try to make it 3-0, but he hits it right to Willis before Willis denied Ledesma and his debut goal. And there was no doubt momentum was with NYCFC. Like they were looking to try to blow this game open, but Baraza had to deny Mukhtar from close range. Hani Mukhtar had another good game in this one, and just a little spoiler alert, he actually got on the score sheet again. But we do head to halftime with NYCFC leading 2-0. Now in the second half, Ledesma would put puts it wide or pulls it wide from close range before Magno would hit one right to Willis. And again, promising start for NYCFC. They were trying to make this 3-0 and put this game away. Ilinic did hit one right to Willis, but then Sapon had a chance from point blank effort. He hits this one right to actually not Willis, but he hits this one right to Barraza. He didn't hit this one right to his own goalkeeper, but that's just kind of sums up in terms of CJ Sapon and his luck in front of goal. I mean, he is just so snake bitten right now. Even going back to last year, no goal ever since May of last year. Then Rodriguez would pulls it wide from a tight angle as I thought the game started to open up just like what we saw in the first half. Believe it or not, in the first half it was kind of really open where both of these teams was getting some decent chances. In the 76th minute, it looked like Shaq Moore got one back for Nashville as he puts it into the back of the net. Problem was the goal was disallowed because of the offside flag. But nevertheless, Nashville did get one back in the 81st minute, and as I mentioned before, Hani Mukhtar gets on the score sheet here to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC, and you just kind of sense that, yeah, it's nervy time for those NYCFC fans at Citi Field because Nashville was pressing late to try to get the equalizer while NYCFC were looking to try to seize out this game. And knowing the fact that, as I mentioned before in these two games, on how teams aren't able to see out to get all 3 points, yeah, I'm pretty sure NYCFC fans have every right to be very nervous about. But thankfully, unlike New England and Charlotte, they were able to hold on to their lead late in this game as they win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 14 shots committed, 15 that Nashville has. Both teams had 6 shots on goal, 3 shots off target for the 4 that NYCFC had, 6 shots that was blocked for the 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Nashville has in this game. And yeah, overall, good win for NYCFC at home, and for Nashville, again, it wasn't a bad performance, but when you find yourself down 2-0 so early in the game, especially on the road, it is always tough to try to overcome, especially against this NYCFC team that don't blow leads often. With that being said, I am now going to switch sports and look at the last 4 games as part of this first part of looking at all these games for match week number 8 in terms of the Saturday action. So moving on in the next game is Toronto FC and Atlanta United, and this was another game that featured a late goal. And for Atlanta, it looked like they were on their way to get a big 3 points on the road against a TFC team that seems to be tough to beat because they haven't lost since the first weekend of the MLS action, and they remained that because they were able to rescue themselves a draw in this game. Though it didn't start off well for them. In fact, just 4 minutes in, Atlanta would get the opening goal, and it's Yakimakis. All of a sudden, Yakimakis. We talked about how he will be able to replace the stature of Joseph Martinez. It's safe to say that he's definitely done a great job in terms of because he's been a guy that's been in form and have been pretty much scoring goal almost every single game, especially early in the game, as he scored here from Lennon to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. And then Yakimakis had another chance just 14 minutes later, and once again he was trying to score on the header like the one that he scored in the first one, but this time it goes straight to Johnson. Wiley then puts it wide from close range, and so far, Atlanta has been the better team, and they were pushing to try to get the second goal. Though in the 28th minute, the first chance did came for Toronto as Westbrook did deny Cervania from close range. This was definitely an interesting game from Quentin Westbrook playing against his former team and against a team that he's been with for a very long time. I think that there was even a good reception for him because again he's been with TFC for a very long time. Speaking of TFC, they would actually get the equalizer in the 43rd minute as Larea would score from Benedeschi to tie the game up at 1 apiece. It was not great defending from Atlanta. Like, Richie Larea literally cut open that defense as he just basically dribbled right down Broadway. And yeah, it's a great goal from Richie Larea, but there's got to be some questioning in terms of the defending for Atlanta, which is kind of unlike them because Atlanta has been doing very well this season in terms of the defense, but that was just not one of those moments. But we do head to halftime, tied up at 1 apiece, and in the second half, Etienne did try to give Atlanta the lead back, but he curls one just wide from close range, and there was no doubt that Atlanta was on the front foot. They were looking to try to retake the lead. Cho would hit one right to Johnson before Sosa took a shot that or actually, Sosa's shot took a deflection but hits right to Johnson there. But then in the 74th minute, Guzman would had a shot that was deflected and it actually kissed the outside part of the post. So that one actually took a wicked deflection, and the post, of course, denies Gutman the chance for Atlanta to get that second goal. But it's safe to say that Atlanta was really piling the pressure and was looking to get that lead. And they do in the 76th minute, as Cho would score here from Araujo and Gutman to retake the lead for Atlanta. Definitely well deserved because of the pressure that Atlanta was putting. But then on the other end, Bernadeschi had a free kick that was denied by Westberg, but the ball was recycled, and Cervania had a chance to tie the game up for TFC again. But this, unfortunately, he puts it high and wide from long range. But in the 4th minute stoppage time, he would be on target as he scored in the 4th minute of stoppage time from Marshall Ruti and Osorio to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Again, the story of this week is teams not closing games out and giving up late uh, goals to squander all 3 points, and that's kind of the case for Atlanta in this one, as in the end, they let 3 points slip out of their hands in this one with a 2-2 draw. And the shots in this one, 10 shots on 10 shots compared to 11 that TFC had. Almost had 10 shots on goal that Atlanta has. They didn't have 10 shots on goal. They actually had half of that. 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that Toronto has. In fact, actually, it's not 10 shots. It's actually 16 shots there. I think I misread it there because I made it look like it's 0. But 3 shots off target for the 2 that TFC had. 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Atlanta has in possession-wise. 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Atlanta has in this game. And, it's not often I say the road team will be coming out of a draw on a disappointing note, but that's kind of the case for Atlanta in this one because besides a couple of decent chances that TFC had in this one, Atlanta should have won this one, and they'll be very frustrated that they dropped points in this one. But for TFC, I mean, they remain unbeaten ever since the opening weekend. But again, I mean, I think this one will at least kind of feel a little bit like a win because it looked like their unbeaten streak was going to come to an end. But Brendan Cervania basically rescued that. But again, just way too many draws for TFC this season. Like they're starting to becoming like Nashville SC a couple years ago, where all they do is basically get draws. And remember, draws does not help you in terms of getting yourself up the table. I mean, it might help you in terms of not dropping down the table, but it certainly does not help you in terms of getting yourself above the table and getting yourself above the red line. But that being said, moving on into the next match is another game that feature a draw. This time between the New York Red Bulls versus the Houston Dynamo. But for the Red Bulls, they would be kicking themselves in this one because yes, I know. Eventually they also score a late goal just like TFC to salvage a point, but they should not have to wait till that moment. I mean, they had a lot of chances in this game. They really outplayed Houston throughout this game, but yeah, just the finishing wasn't there for them. Now, in the first half, as the whistle was blown for the start of the game, the scheduled walkout protest began. We talk about the whole Dante Vancier situation for the past week, and with the suspension that's being made, that has not really pleased a lot of people, including the Red Bull supporter group. They have issued a statement about it as soon as the suspension was announced, and they were going to plan a walkout. And I think throughout the rest of the game, I mean, we did see some Red Bulls fan went into their supporter group section, but I guess that. I think maybe the security just kind of let them to be there just to make sure that the stands doesn't look that empty. By the way, this walkout, it was only the Red Bull supporter group that does it. Nobody else actually does this walkout, but it's very understandable why that, of course, is the case because of the whole bad situation that has happened for this club in this past week, especially last week against the Quakes. But in the 7th minute, there was a scramble in the Dynamo box that the Red Bulls couldn't quite slot that one away before Barlow did try to do a cheeky back heel, but that one goes straight to Steve Clark. The Red Bulls were on the front foot. They were pressing to get the opening goal. Harper had a shot that was deflected and goes wide before Karaskia with a rare opportunity for the Dynamo. In fact, that was their first chance, but he puts it wide from close range. I mean, he was really he was the only offense for the Dynamo in this one. But then in the 32nd minute, Clark would rob Nealis on a point blank effort before he denied Burke on the header. It's safe to say that Steve Clark was definitely looking like he's bringing himself his A game and looking like at times why he was very beloved for when he was with the Portland Timbers. But Harper then had a shot that was actually spilled by Clark, but he was able to gather it. So yeah, that was almost a nervy moment for Clark, almost ruined at that point was a stellar night, but it was all Red Bulls up to that point. But the problem is, can they solve Steve Clark, who not only brought his A game, but he was determined to not give up a goal in this one. Reyes then hit wide from the free kick in the 42nd minute, and despite numerous opportunities the Red Bulls had to get the opening goal, we remained scoreless heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Edelman had a shot that took a deflection and it goes wide before I wrote straight off the bat. The Red Bulls, they were pushing hard again to try to get the opener, and it feels like the Dynamo was playing for a 0-0 draw. Like you can see they were dropping their lines very deep in this one, almost like they're playing for the 0-0 draw from the beginning, and even time waste a little bit to get this 0-0 draw. But instead of getting a 0-0 draw, all of a sudden, in the 67th minute, they find themselves took the lead. And remember how I said Karaskia seems like was their only offense? Well, it turns out he actually scored here in the 67th minute as he scored from Franco and Clark to tie, or not to tie, but give Houston a 1-0 lead. And really, this came out of nowhere. Like, this was just a ball boots up in the field to Clark. Not really quite like a route one, something similar that we saw in one of the game last week, but just kind of boots up in the middle of the park where the Red Bulls didn't deal with it. And the next thing you know, Franco plays a perfect ball to Karaskia, and that's all it took for the Dynamo to make it 1-0. So yeah, it's definitely against the run of play, and definitely looked like Houston was going to do something that we don't see a lot of the road team does, which is kind of do a smash and grab and maybe steal all 3 points in this one. Though in the 70th minute, Fernandez did hit one right to Clark before Casperas would hit one right to Clark, and you can see the frustration was started to be shown in these Red Bulls player. Like they just cannot finish in this game. They just cannot solve Steve Clark. But they finally did in the 90th minute as Omar Fernandez would get on the header from the corner from John Token. I mean, John Token, one of the best player in terms of crossing in this league, and he puts a peach of a cross right to Omar Fernandez to tie the game up at one apiece. And then Manuel tried to win it for the Red Bulls, but he puts it high from long range. And yeah, in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams, and the shots in this game heavily in favor of the Red Bulls. 18 shots for the just 3 that Houston had. 2 shots on goal for the 7 that the Red Bulls had. 1 shots off target for the 5 that the Red Bulls had. No shots that was blocked for the 6 that the Red Bulls had. And possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that the Dynamo has in this game. And again, even with that late equalizer, if you're a Red Bulls fan, it has to be very frustrating because you were by far the better team in this game, and they don't get a win out of that. And if you're the Dynamo, I mean, depending on which Dynamo fans you ask, if you want to ask a more optimist Dynamo fans, you would say that, yeah, they gave up a late goal, but with the way that they were kind of dominate for the whole game, and the way that this team don't usually get row points, it's going to consider a win. But if you want to ask a pessimist Dynamo fans, they'll be kind of a little bit frustrated because they could have had all 3 points. They could have steal this one if they didn't give up a goal and be bad defending a set piece like they did that gave up a goal for the Red Bulls. But either way, this is a game that for the Red Bulls they would not be very happy, even if they eventually did salvage themselves a point with a late equalizer. Speaking of bad finishing, so moving on in terms of the next match, that was kind of the case in this game between Austin and Vancouver, as this was really one of those nil-nil draws where, neither team can finish, and also both goalkeepers seem to be dueling each other out and to make sure that no goal was going to be past their net. Now, early on, White did hit one right to Stuver in the 7th minute before Ring, which struck the post after he and Aruti was actually attempting to hit the same ball. And I just wonder whether or not if Aruti act as a distraction, because when you have both players goes for the same ball there, that usually never ends well. But yeah, that's one that Alex Ring would love to have back, especially how close that one was in. Though in the 13th minute, Takaoka did deny Rigoni from close range, as again it was a promising start for Austin, but can they find their finishing touch? Spoiler alert, that would be a huge no. But in the 19th minute, Uruchi would hit one right to Takaoka before Stuvert had to deny Gressel from long range, and then Gressel fires it wide on the free kick. Very good game for Julian Gressel in this one. In fact, he created a lot of good chances for Vancouver, and I even wrote Vancouver themselves. They were starting to create some of those good opportunity against this makeshift backline for Austin. I mean, I think the only positive coming out of this game is that at least Austin didn't give up a goal because of this makeshift backline. But in the 27th minute, Gressa would hit a one hopper that goes wide before Owen Wolf would hits one right to Takaoka. Again, there's been a lot of chances for both of these teams, but can any of these teams be a little bit better in terms of finishing? Again, spoiler alert, that would be a huge no. But in the 44th minute, Beecher would hit one right to Stuvert after just a terrible giveaway from Gallagher. I mean, again, you're going to see this happen with this Austin team pretty much every game where they're going to at least allow one or two bad giveaway because of how bad that defense is. But in the second minute, Fagundes would hit it high on the free kick. I mean, notice how I haven't mentioned Diego Fagundes' name a lot in Austin game this season. It's been a rough season for Diego Fagundes. I mean, and it's sad to see because the last 2 years he has really made a big impact for this Austin team, especially last year where he had a career season. But man, this year he has took a huge regression, and he just have not looked like the same guy. And also, not to mention, what sucks for Austin even more is the fact that he actually got himself injured in this game. So it's gotta suck for him, the fact that he's already had a poor season and now he's gonna be on the IR. But we do head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. And the second half, Takioka would deny Fagundes from close range before Gallagher would pose it wide from long range. Because why not? John Gallagher, it seems like he's the only guy for Austin to be able to score goals for this team. But in the 60th minute, on the other end, Stuver would absolutely rob White from close range. I mean, Brian White in this game. I mean, at least he has started to score goals again in the league, but it looks like this game he kind of revert back to the early season itself where he just could not put one in and was kind of snake bitten. But again, once again, this game started to become open as both of these teams were still trying to find that one moment of clinical finishing. But as we approach the 70th minute mark, I think they mentioned before that Austin, they've been going through a bit of a goal drought. But what I didn't know is that goal drought has now gone past 300 plus minutes. In fact, by the 70th minute, they have now gone 400 plus minutes without scoring a goal. And considering the fact that this team last season was a free scoring team, it is just a huge fall from grace. The fact that this team is having problem in terms of scoring. Again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that this attack, and when you look at this attack on the town wise, this team should not be having problem in terms of scoring goal, but because of just so much players on this team that is not named John Gallagher, or even in some cases Sebastian Driussi, or no, I would actually add Driussi in the case because he's also been got off to a terrible start to the season. Yeah, that just kind of shows you that's been a problem. I mean, I know that maybe is kind of overshadowed because of how bad the defending has been for Austin, but going forward, and especially in this game, it was in full display of why they're going through this goal drought right now. So on the other end, Dahome did pose it wide from long range before Takaoka would deny Pereira from close, and then Driussi would hit one right to Takaoka before Zardes had a free header there, but knowing the form that Jersey Zardes is in for Austin, and really kind of the case for all these Austin attacker, he hits one straight to Takaoka. So yeah, in the end, neither team could find their finishing. It ends in a scoreless draw, and this is despite the fact that there was 31 shots combined for both of these teams. 18 shots committed, 13 that Vancouver has. 4 shots on goal per the 7 that Austin has. 4 shots that, or actually not 4 shots, 9 shots off target for the 8 that Austin has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that Vancouver has. And possession-wise, Austin had better than the possession. 57% possession compared to 43% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game. But the struggle continue for Austin. I mean, we focus so much about how bad this defense is. Now all of a sudden they can't score goals, and when you have that as a combination, yeah, you're not gonna win a lot of game. In fact, it could go through get out of hand if Austin don't figure this out because yeah, it's hard to believe how much of a huge fall from grace and how much of a regression that they have have shown. I mean, we knew that they were gonna regress from last season, but I didn't think it was this hard, and the way that they also even mentioned the fact that this is the first time that they drew 0-0 in a matchup in like 68 matches, which again is not a big surprise because this team was so fun to watch last season, but this year it's been the polar or opposite. But for Vancouver, I don't think they'll be happy with the result too because they had the chances to win this game too. But I guess then maybe they'll just be happy the fact that they didn't lose again, which is Vancouver. I think between them and Colorado and even Toronto FC in some extent are starting to be becoming those teams that get off to a bad start, but at least they're going to be happy the fact that they kind of weathered the storm. But now they just need to find ways to start to win more games, which I would say, at least in Vancouver case, they have had done that in the last couple of games. But that being said, moving on into the last match of this review is Chicago versus the Philadelphia Union, and it's safe to say that normal service has resumed for the Chicago Fire. Because remember how last week, how I said that it was kind of surprising that they were able to hold on to a 2-0 lead and able to win that one? Yeah, in this game they had a 2-0 lead against the Union, and you're thinking, can they do it again? Can they maybe surprise everyone that they can hold on to a 2-0 lead at home for the second game in a row? The answer is a huge no in this one against the Union. But early on in the first half, Uru did hit the side netting before in the 7th minute. We almost saw the goal of the week, though, as I'll talk about in part 2 of the review. We definitely have saw the goal of the week and maybe even a contention for goal of the year because a certain player decided to go on his bike and score a goal there, which again, we'll talk more about that in tomorrow's review of part number 2. But Saket did try to catch Blake off his lines, and he actually go for a chip not only from long range, but in his own half. Like he was trying to do a David Villa there, but unfortunately it didn't quite happen. And that's actually also a good reference too, knowing the fact that David Villa actually did chip Andre Blake a couple of years ago when NYCFC played the Union, and Saket almost did the same thing there, but didn't happen this time. In fact, but it was close though. It actually hits the roof off the net there. If that was a little bit underhit, I think it could have catch Andre Blake there. But that being said, in the 17th minute, Kamara would hit the side netting from close range. But then in the 19th minute, Chicago take the lead. It's Halas Salisi. He scored from Navarro and Mueller there to make it 1-0 in favor of Chicago. Must be embarrassing that I couldn't recognize my handwriting for a second. But yeah, this was kind of an interesting goal because, Halas Salisi, he actually kind of mishits it. But because of the fact that he mishits it kind of really bad where the ball kind of just stop into play, he actually had a second chance to trying to hit it, and in that second attempt, he was able to put it away. And not to mention, he was trying to tap that one in too, so there was like no defender in front of him. But yeah, that gives Chicago a 1-0 lead. Gutierrez tried to double that lead, but he had it wide from close range. But there was no doubt the momentum was with the Fire. They were looking to try to get that second goal. They couldn't do so as we head to halftime 1-0. They would do so heading into the second half, and it didn't take long for them to get that second goal as Nathan Hario would score here to make it 2-0. Or actually, Hario, unfortunately, here scoring an own goal for the Union in this one to make it 2-0 in favor of Chicago. And again, this was just one of those unfortunate sequence where Glesnes was trying to clear this one away and it hits his own teammate. Yeah, that is definitely very, very bad luck. Again, this won't be the last time I talk about some unfortunate own goal because we also saw one unfortunate own goal too where it hits the ball hits the post and it hits the back of the goalkeeper and went in, and this one just as bad as that one. I mean, Glesnes tried to clear it away, but Hario just kind of got in the way of it and it redirect back toward goal. But Chicago wouldn't care. They were up to nothing, and they think, well, with that kind of luck, maybe our luck is started to turn out. Maybe we might actually hold on to a 2-0 lead. But in the 55th minute, Blake did deny Halas Salisi from close range before Shihos did puts it high from long range. And again, Chicago pushing to try to get that third goal, but it didn't happen because in the 62nd minute, a penalty was given to the Union as Navarro would bring down Uru in the box, which Gastak steps up to take the penalty. Daniel Gastak is not going to miss. He buries that one to make it 2-1 in favor of the Fire. And then just 2 minutes later, it happened again. Carranza would score from Gastek and Sullivan to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and it just feels like it's Groundhog Day once again for the Chicago Fire. Like they're back, hitting the self-destruction button again at home, blowing 2-0 lead this time in a span of just 3 minutes. And then it almost was 3-2 when Sullivan pulls it wide from close range in the 72nd minute. Before on the other end, Pineda would hit it wide from close, and then the post started to get into the action. First, the post denied Martinez, who actually smacked that one very hard from close range, and you can definitely see the crossbar was still ringing after that one hits it. And then not long after, on the other side, the post would deny Casillas and his first career MLS goal. So yeah, there was definitely some MLS After Dark energy where, in a span of 3 minutes, both team was victimized by the post. In fact, I think this week alone there was definitely a lot of MLS After Dark kind of energy with a lot of these late goals that was scored, but it wasn't the case in this one, as in the end, it ends in a 2-2 draw, and the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 12 that Chicago has, 2 shots on goal for the 4 that the Union has, 8 shots off target for the 7 that the Union has, 2 shots on block for the 5 that the Union has, and possession-wise, dead even at 50% for both of these teams. But overall, again, for the Fire, another game, another 2-0 lead blown. I mean, again, just imagine if this team did not keep blowing 2-0 leads or blowing 2 goals lead at home and make those boneheaded play on the road. This team would be right up there in terms of being one of the best team in the Eastern Conference, but that's just kind of the life of being a Chicago Fire fan and just the life of the Chicago Fire for the past couple of years, where it just doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter what kind of players, what kind of coaching is there. This team is just simply cursed because of the way that they just cannot stop blowing leads at home, left, and right. But for the Philadelphia Union, I mean, I guess they'll be happy with this result, knowing the fact that, again, it could have been easily a letdown, especially when they were down 2-0. You would think that, well, looks like the Union is having their usual problem in league play, where they're so focused on CCL, they're probably going to draw all 3 points. But I got a point out of this one, and who knows, getting a point out of this one can maybe help the cause where the Union wouldn't get themselves too deep in a hole. And keep in mind, because of the fact that we're still early in the season and the fact that 9 teams get into the playoffs, the Union, even though I think they're outside of the playoff picture, they're not that far from getting themselves back above the red line, because there's just so many teams around them aren't able to get wins. They can get themselves easily getting them back into to the playoff position, especially once they're done with CCL. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review for the first part of looking at these 8 games that happened in match week number 8. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this review? And like I said, tomorrow I'll look at the last 5 games to conclude match week number 8. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.